Welcome to CSEGuru. In this session, we will discuss the topic scope of an object. Here, scope represents the lifetime of an object. In C programming, if you are considering, all the objects will not be visible or available to use in all the places. It will be restricted based on its scope. So, the definition for scope of an object is the region or boundary of the program in which object is visible. So, the visibility of an object is restricted within the specific region or boundary. And this region or boundary will be decided by its declaration, that is object declaration. So, the particular object is visible only within the particular region or boundary. Outside the region, it will be invisible. And the visibility is decided by the declaration of an object. So, that is nothing but the scope of an object. So here object may be a variables or functions. Already we know any variable or user defined functions, if you want to use in program in the sense, that should be declared first. And this declaration will restrict the scope of an object. And what is block? Already we know. Block is nothing but a set of statements specified within the curly brace. So this is the left curly brace and this is the right curly brace. And within this curly brace, whatever the statements we are specifying, that is nothing but the block statements. Okay. So here we can able to specify 0 statement or any number of statements. But whatever we are specifying within this curly brace, that is nothing but the block statements. And if you are considering the function in the sense, function itself is a block statement. For example, void add. Add is the function name. And after this function, we will specify the set of curly brace. And this represents the function body. Inside the function body, first will be the declaration statement. And next and all is the execution statements. And finally, it will end with the return statement. Okay. Function itself is a block with its own declaration, execution and return statement. So inside the function, it is possible to nest any number of blocks. So apart from this function body, whatever the other statements we will specify with block, for loop we will specify within the block. Similarly, while loop we will specify within block, do while, and switch statement we will specify within block. And the conditional statements, if we will specify within block, all the if statements. Simple if, nested if, else if, later, all the statements we will specify within block. These block statements we can able to specify within function body also, wherever it is required. So, it is possible to nest any number of block statements within the function body with its own definition. So, that is nothing but the nested block statements. So, the object or variable scope extends from its declaration until end of block. So, if you are using any object or the variable in the sense, the lifetime of the variable will start from its declaration and it will be destroyed at the end of the block. Suppose here if you are declaring int a in the sense, the visibility of variable a will end with this return statement because we have specified within this block. So after the left curly brace, the first statement is nothing but the declaration statements. And here if you have declared the variable in the sense, the lifetime of the variable will be only within the block. Outside the block, variable will be invisible. So the lifetime of the variable will extend from its declaration till end of the block. Once it reaches the end of the block, the particular variable declared inside the block will be invisible. So that is nothing but the scope of an object. There are two types of scope. One is a global scope and another one is local scope. First, we will discuss about global scope. Object defined in the global declaration section is nothing but global scope. What is global declaration section? The section after the header file and before the main function, and this portion is nothing but the global declaration section. So whatever the object we are declaring here or the variables we are declaring here, that will have visibility in this complete program. It will not be restricted only within the block. The visibility of particular variable or object declared in the global declaration section will have a total visibility. The only executable program in C is nothing but the main function. So here, the program, all the statements, whatever we wanted to execute, we need to specify within the main function. If you want to execute the user-defined function also, the user-defined function should be called within the main function. These concepts already we know. Okay. So the global objects are visible from its definition, where we will define in the global declaration section. From its definition till end of the program. The meaning is the global objects we can use in any number of user-defined function. Suppose if you are using another user-defined function to one in the sense, here also the particular variable will be visible. User-defined function 2 in the sense, here also that particular variable will be visible. So, in all the user-defined function, including the main function, the variables declared in the global declaration section will be visible. So, global objects are visible from its definition till end of the program. So, the global objects will have a total visibility. Meaning is, it will be used in main function and it will be used in all the user-defined functions. It won't raise any error. And it is utilized in main function as well as all user-defined functions. Okay. And objects defined outside the block has global scope. If you are declaring the object within the block in the sense, it will have a local scope. Okay. Object defined outside the block. So outside the block in the sense, that is nothing but the global declaration section. So global declaration section is nothing but the section after the header file declaration and before the main function. That is nothing but the global declaration section. So the objects or variables declared in global declaration section will have a total visibility. That is, complete program can utilize that particular variable. Okay. So this is nothing but the global scope. Next, local scope if we are considering in the sense, object defined within a block. Within a specific block if you are declaring in the sense, the object visibility will be only within that particular block. So for example, if you are considering main function, if you are declaring int a in the sense, this is nothing but the local declaration for its main function. That is, this variable will be utilized only for the main function, not for the other user-defined function. That is the meaning. So, the lifetime of variable will be only within this block statement. When it reaches the end of the block in the sense, if you are using variable a in the sense, it will raise error. A is undeclared. Okay. So, that is nothing but the local scope. That is, the variables declared within the block statement will have a block scope only. That is, the lifetime of the variable will be only within the block. So here, scope starts from its declaration until end of the block. So the scope of A will start here from its declaration and it will end here. That is the end of the block. This declaration will be over. So outside the block, variable A is invisible. Okay. So the life of an object starts from its declaration and destroyed when it reaches the end of the block. And local objects are invisible outside the block. Suppose if you have declared the local variable int a within main function and if you wanted to use an user-defined function in the sense, it will be invisible for this user-defined function. If you wanted to use the same variable in the sense, you need to declare again here. And this will have a local scope within only this function, user-defined function. That is the meaning. Okay. So, local objects or variables is invisible outside the block. Only within the block only it will be visible from its declaration till end of the block. Okay. Similarly here, from its declaration till end of the block only it will be visible. It will not be visible outside the block or for other user-defined functions, it will not be visible. This is an example program to implement the scope of an object. And here we have used two user-defined functions. One is addition and another one is subtraction. And the user-defined functions, if you wanted to use in the sense, that should be defined first. That is declared first in the global declaration section. So here we have declared in global declaration section. And this is the main function. And if you are considering here, so this a, b, sum, minus, these are all the variables. And these variables will be visible only within the block. And this will have a local scope. and these objects will be visible only within the main function. And outside the main function, here if I wanted to use sum in the sense, the sum variable already we have declared in main function, but its lifetime is limited until this end of the block. Outside the block, it will not be visible. So we cannot able to use in addition or subtraction the same variable. Okay. So here again we have declared the variable sum. And this lifetime is only within this block. And here if we are considering int minus we have declared, and the lifetime of the variable is only within the block. Suppose if we have declared int a comma b, in the sense this variable will be accessible for main function also, this addition function also, as well as the subtraction function also. We can able to use this a and b without any further declaration. Here it is not required to declare. Here also it is not required to declare. Here also it is not required to declare. This one declaration is enough. This will have a global scope. Okay. So the variables or object declared in the global declaration section will have a global scope. That is the total visibility in all places within the particular C program. Okay. But the variables declared within the block, in the sense, that will have a limited scope. Only within this block only it will be visible. For other user-defined functions, it will not be visible. Again, if it is required, in the sense, we need to declare it. Okay. So this is nothing but the local scope and global scope. And this part is nothing but the global declaration section. And the variables, if you want to declare it as a global variable, in the sense, you need to declare here only. That is in global declaration section. Then only it will have total visibility. Okay. So this is the concept of scope of an object. Thank you for watching this video.